Good evening, comrades. This is your brother Jamala again, coming back to you. I'm also known as Brother Soldier 4D. We've been discussing the topic of ensnarement, or another word for it is entrapment of the fowler, and that's a word that's used a lot of times in the scriptures to discuss how someone hunts for a specific animal, or they can use that in the society where man seeks to lay traps for other men. And this is a little bit of a disclaimer, like an overview of the 5 topics that I've presented. And I'm not sure if I'm going to piggyback this one off of part 1 or let it be a continuation of like part 6. But I want to put a disclaimer that none of the things that are said in these topics are to be personal, but it's an overview of some of the things that I've seen happen in the course of decades, not only in my own life, but in observations of other people's lives. The part where we talk about entrapment, or what you call ensnarement, I wanted to elaborate on that a little more, that in order for a hunter or a predator to seek a person out to do harm in their life, they have to know a little bit about the appetite, the customs, the courtesies, the friends, the foes. They have to know a little bit about what they're hunting so that they can lay the proper type of trap to catch the person or to cause the person to fall. And so, you know these things. And so when you have men that study sociology, study psychology, either they're going to contribute to helping a person do better in their life to get out of certain strongholds, whether they're in very rough environments that influence them to make wrong decisions, they have wrong peers, you have a system that may not care about them, that also has pitfalls for the undesirables or the ones they don't love. So we speak from that angle that, they say you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But we know by history in the Black African struggle that those people who did what they did are guilty. They don't have to be proven innocent. They were guilty. And the ones that have their hands dirty and the ones that have contributed to this, it is a carryover even into these modern times, from going from colonization, slavery to now. It has impacted our self-esteem. When you tell people that they're come from slaves, that they're nothing, and you convince them through your history books that they merely were saved because they were savages. When you put these images in their mind and in their where they can visualize these things, that affects their self-esteem. A lot of it was lies. And so when people say, who's holding you back today? It's not just the system holding you back, it's the system indoctrinating you. Indoctrination is another form of people control. And a lot of times that indoctrination, as I said in the very beginning of these series, of these topics, that it comes through media, it comes through church, it comes through school, it comes through maybe even your household. So these things are not imagined. These things are what you call scars and deeply deep impressions in our psyche that we have to climb out of or be healed from. And so when you see people functioning, or people that are dysfunctional in the Black African struggle, part of that is because they have been crippled. They have been made dependent. They have been taken away from sovereignty. And so the mental change that caused them to believe that they are of no significance or no value in a society where everything else is praised and uplifted is all it takes for them to not have hope or to even give up hope or to try and to give up easy. You have some people that have been able to strive against those odds, but in many cases, a lot of people have not. So people who love people are not rested in their soul when they see their brother or their loved ones struggling and fighting demons that have been injected into their psyche where they cannot get a hold of life, a foothold of life, and move forward. So I say all of that. Okay. And then there was a statement that I made in part 3, or an experience that I shared at a school. And I talked about how I was very skilled counselor, very skilled with youth. And I went into this job, and that director basically removed me from that assignment because I didn't raise my voice. I didn't do anything. I just wrote a letter to the superintendent. I wanted to go back about that and say that was as late as 2016, about the spring, about the April of 2016 in that school. It's not long ago. I see these repeated patterns of abuse of power. And she had no right busting me out like that in front of all those professionals and in front of the children. She did that in front of the little boys and stuff. And I called her on it. And rather than her take responsibility for it, she made up a lie and said that I abandoned the children when they were on the playground. And you have to go back to part 3 to hear her mainly that. And the other teachers were there on the playground when I asked them, could I be excused to go and talk to her? Because whatever she told me to do, when she busted me out in front of all those people, I followed through. I'm smart enough. I've been in the military and everything. I know about insubordination. I know about those entrapments that they try to use to make you look like you're non-compliant. So I went ahead and asked her, what am I going to do now that she busts me out in front of all those youth? Instead of screaming at her, cussing at her, and throwing my chest out, I just said, okay, so where do we go from here? I said, let's end the conversation. Where do we go? She said, move them out to the playground. And I did that. And the children were knocking each other down because they had no discipline. And I went on out. And then that's when I turned around, went back in there, had a talk with her and told her I didn't appreciate what she did. I didn't appreciate the way she approached it. And I said she could have probably told me something in private. We could have had some discussion about it, but I see she's not interested in that. She was interested in demonstrating power. Okay? And so whether she's racist or whether she was anti-male, whatever her hang-up was, I've been in these systems 20-something, 30, almost 20 to 30-something years. I know what's right. Okay, so I don't have to sit up and debate with somebody whether somebody's racist, whether somebody's feminist, or whether someone is undermining black males. I see it all the time. And it takes a certain kind of skill to develop to try to keep you from going and really breaking your foot off in somebody because they put you in that type of situation where you always the one that's out of control. And she fabricated some stuff and said, I don't want you going back to the children because I see you're upset. And I said, no, I'm upset with you. But I said, don't worry about the children. I know how to deal with that. I said, I'm talking about you. And so that's where that went. And I wanted to go back and share that with you. And I'm tired of that. You can't be a man. You can't just be a man, and especially in North America, without them getting all offended and trying to feminize you, trying to take away your what little authority you have. And so people, yes, they are holding you back. They are holding you back. In fact, they're so subtle with it that even the average brother has a hard time articulating the demonic things that go on. So I just wanted to share that part as late as 2016, and it's pitiful. In the black superintendent that I had gone to, he didn't even see me, and I knew him as a principal at a middle school, and he came up. He's younger than me. He came up through the ranks and went and got his PhD and became a superintendent of one of the townships. I'm sorry, a principal of one of the townships. Then they moved him over to this superintendent position, and he just sided with her. He just sided with her, evidently, because he never even brought me in to at least talk to me or find out. So these so-called brothers, these black men that get in these high positions, they're used against their own brothers. They're just trying to protect their salary. They're trying to value the relationship that they have between white overseers and people who trying to run their own agenda. They are more showing their allegiance and faithfulness to them more so than another brother or the children who are the main ones suffering. They don't value that relationship between them and the children, more than they do trying to please their overseers. That's why I say a lot of times, a lot of black Africans that rise up in white America, rise up in those high positions, they ain't worth a quarter to their race. And the race, and you can't hardly do anything for your race because they'll come back and get him. And this is why I say those are token positions. I have no respect for those kind of positions. I didn't even want one. There's a lot of jobs I refused because those are token. You know, General Patton, a great general, and I really enjoyed reading some of his stories, and I liked his bearing, his military bearing, and I bring him up because he said every man's, I hope I'm quoting this right, every man's responsibility ought always match his authority, or either every man's authority ought always match his responsibility. So if you give a person responsibility, you let them exercise the authority. But what they want you to do is take all the responsibility as white people that are racist or that what you call privileged. They want to take you and put you in a position of responsibility that won't give you any authority to do what you have to do to run things. And so they clip your wings all the time. So yeah, they holding you back, and they still do it. They're insecure. And that's why I said you can't work with some of these people and help your own people. You have to, they say you can't serve two masters. So in the scriptures, so you have to basically get your children out from under these people, these heathens, or whatever you want to call them, and run these boys yourself and get those boys from running down the same course that these other brothers are that are incarcerated, and get them under the right teaching when they're young. And so when you try to step out and do that, you're basically breaking the unwritten rule. You know, how dare you have the audacity to help your own? The only thing you do is help us, and that's the kind of spirit you're dealing with. So I wanted to revisit that, whether I'm going to call this part 1B, like to add on to the first part, or whether I want to put it in as a 6th edition. I'll decide that when I upload it. But I'm trying to think, is there any other thing that I wanted to say on this entrapment? Now, I don't hold any system responsible for 100% of everything that a black African does. And I also feel like he has to make responsible choices as well. But a lot of those times, those choices are within a system that he feels like he's been shut out of, and he's going to do what he can. And sometimes that's a cowardly approach because he's not fighting the fight he's supposed to fight. So he goes out and joins the gangs, he goes out and joins different street groups and brings havoc into the community, and that's what we need to address. But he needs to get out and fight the real fight. He's going to have to fight one way or the other. So peace, love, God bless.